This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. Great podcasts and more info can be found at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's May 11th, and on this day in 1990, the New York Yankees attempted to trade Dave Winfield. The Yankees were closing out a West Coast road trip with a 3-game series with Seattle. Yankee general manager Pete Peterson called a press conference, and the small office that was the visiting manager's office was hastily arranged for the announcement. Now, it may not have technically been a closet for brooms, but it wasn't much bigger than one that is. Dave Winfield was a pretty big guy, and he knew what this press conference was going to be about. And so when Peterson and manager Bucky Dent crammed into the space, Winfield sardined his way in as well. Peterson got right to the point and said that Dave Winfield had been traded to the California Angels for pitcher Mike Witt. The words had not been out of Peterson's mouth for very long when Winfield responded, "I'm not going anywhere. I'll make the choice when and where and how I go." Now, Winfield had been in the league for more than 10 years, and he was in the final year of a 10-year deal that he had signed with the Yankees, more than qualifying for the league's 10-5 rights that allowed him to veto a trade if he so chose. Winfield had missed the entire 1989 season due to a back injury, but he was only 2 years removed from his 12th consecutive All-Star appearance and finishing fourth in the MVP voting. The 38-year-old Winfield was struggling a bit at the plate in the early part of the 1990 season, hitting just .213 with 2 homers. But everybody knew this was about more than just trading an aging player who was struggling on the back end of his career. George Steinbrenner hated Dave Winfield. He had not liked him much after signing him to that 10-year deal back in 1980. Steinbrenner ripped him in the papers, gave him the derisive nickname Mr. May for not providing the big hits in the postseason, and sued him on several occasions. His extreme dislike for Winfield eventually led him to giving gambler Howard Spira money to dig up dirt on Winfield. That eventually led to Spira being sent to prison and Steinbrenner banned from baseball. Winfield and Peterson went back and forth during the press conference about whether Dave could or could not veto the trade. Eventually, the deal did get done when the team got back to New York. After working out a deal for a new contract with the Angels, Winfield finally gave a thumbs up to the trade on the 15th, and he went back to the West Coast for what would be just a year-and-a-half stint with the Angels. But just because Winfield was no longer in Yankee pinstripes, Steinbrenner kept trying to find incriminating information about Winfield. The FBI got involved with a wiretap and learned of a $40,000 payment from Steinbrenner to Spira. And in June, just a few weeks after this trade, Commissioner Fay Vincent banned Steinbrenner from baseball for life. Now, the for life bit was actually just 2 years, after which Vincent rescinded the ban. Winfield and Steinbrenner eventually made peace with one another, but when Winfield went into the Hall of Fame, he did so as a San Diego Padre, despite the fact that he had spent more time in New York as a Yankee. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. If Steinbrenner had an equal in baseball, you could argue that that guy was Ted Turner, who during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s owned the Atlanta Braves. Now, while Steinbrenner was all about shining the spotlight on himself, one thing he never did was head down to the dugout to officially manage the team. Well, on this day in 1977, Ted Turner did just that, making his Major League managing debut. It lasted all of one game. The Atlanta Braves were mired in a slump, losers of 16 straight games and in last place in the division at this point, with an 8-21 record. Turner had purchased the Braves in 1976 after making his money in advertising and then through radio and television, eventually taking a Georgia television station and turning it into a cable behemoth, WTBS. He would go on to establish CNN in 1979 to become the first 24-hour news channel. Well, his purchase of the Braves and later the Atlanta Hawks was to have sports programming for WTBS. So here in the second year of his ownership and his team struggling to win games, Turner told manager Bill Bristol to take a 10-day vacation. Seriously, he did not fire him, just said take a few days off. Turner put on the Braves uniform, stuffed a wad of tobacco in his jaw, walked into the dugout at Pittsburgh's Three River Stadium, and became the manager. Now, he wanted an inside, close-up look at what was going on. Phil Niekro got the start that night against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and prior to the game, Niekro was getting some cuts in the batting cage. He stepped out and was waiting to go back in when Turner came up to him dressed in his number 27 Braves uniform, and Niekro had gotten wind of what Turner was doing, and he asked him, "Hey, Skip, where you got me hitting tonight?" To which Turner replied, "Hell, you want to lead off? You want to hit second or third? We just lost 16 in a row. You've been around here long enough. Hit wherever you want to." Niekro laughed at that and said, "Ted, you should put me in the ninth spot." Turner was actually relying more on third base coach Vern Benson for help in this game. Turner had the final word, but Benson was, in essence, the manager for the night. But really, there weren't a whole lot of decisions to be made. Although down 2-1 in the ninth and a man on first, Turner made a bit of an off-the-cuff move, calling for Darrell Chaney to pinch hit. Chaney was a switch hitter, but says he had never been asked to pinch hit from the right side before. But he stepped in against the left-hander John Candelaria, and he crushed a ball to deep center that bounced off the hard AstroTurf and went over the wall for a ground rule double. Instead of the runner scoring from first had the ball stayed in the park, he was called back to third, and the Candyman took care of the rest of the Braves to preserve the 2-1 Pirates win for the 17th straight Braves loss. After the game, National League President Chub Feeney, with the backing of Commissioner Bowie Kuhn, told Turner that it was against the rules to manage your own club, citing a rule that anyone who owned stock in a team was forbidden to do so. Vern Benson managed the next game, and the Braves actually won. Bristol was brought back in to manage the rest of the season, so much for that 10-day vacation, I guess, and the Braves went on to lose 101 games that year. On this day in 1980, Julius Erving defied the laws of gravity and made one of the most spectacular shots in the history of the NBA. This was Game 4 of the NBA Finals between Philadelphia and the LA Lakers. The game was in the fourth quarter, and the Sixers had a 5-point lead. Brent Musburger had the call for CBS that day.
It's 89-84. Sixers, and they get inside. Unbelievable. Julius Erving. Watch this fantastic move by the doctor. Julius in the air, palm it over the right hand, floating, reaching, and spinning it in. Incredible.
So I'm guessing that you remember this shot, a baseline scoop move where Julius got the ball in the right wing, drove to the basket only to see two LA Lakers big men collapsing on him, blocking his path to the rim, but he still took flight with the ball dwarfed in his large right hand. He glided behind the backboard, walking on air as few men have ever done, windmilling the ball to the other side of the rim for the reverse layup off the glass. Magic Johnson was a rookie on this Lakers team, and he was on the bench taking a breather at this point, and he had a front row seat look at it.
When we cut him off baseline, he started walking in air. Got the ball in one hand. And we said, wait a minute, he's got to come down. There's no way he can stay in the air that long.
But as the doctor himself said, it was just another move. Philadelphia went on to win the game 105-102 to even the series at 2 games apiece. On this day in 1996, San Diego Chargers running back Rodney Culver and his wife Karen were killed when ValuJet Flight 592 crashed in the Florida Everglades. Culver had been a fourth-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts and had a good rookie season with 7 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving TDs. He was cut by the Colts after his second season and picked up by the San Diego Chargers. His 2 seasons in San Diego had not been productive, but in off-season workouts, Culver had been working himself into the best shape of his life, and he was excited for the upcoming season. Rodney and Karen boarded ValuJet Flight 592 in Miami for the short flight to Atlanta en route to their home in Woodstock, Georgia, about 30 miles north of Atlanta. About 10 minutes out of Miami, a fire erupted in the cargo area of the plane. A hazardous oxygen generator had been mishandled and mislabeled. The plane crashed into the Everglades, killing all 110 people on board, and it is still the deadliest plane crash in Florida. The Culvers left behind twin daughters who were waiting with their grandmother at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport on this day. And in 1893, Frenchman Henri Desgrange set the first world cycling hour record. And if you're not familiar with this particular event, this is a one-person ride against the clock on a velodrome track, so banked turns, no drafting, man and machine seeing how far they can go in 60 minutes. Well, Henri pedaled 21.95 miles in an hour on this day to set the standard. Now, Henri would go on to found the Tour de France 10 years later, with the first iteration in 1903. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The next time your doctor gives you a hard time about your cholesterol, let them know that you're just looking out for your brain health. Research has revealed that adults with higher cholesterol levels have better overall memory function, while those with lower cholesterol had a higher risk of depression. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.